Sprout Scouts! I'm Allison, and this is Maisie. Today, we are going to be learning about one of the most important building blocks of gardening. Soil! Do you know what soil is? Isn't that the same thing as dirt? Sort of. Dirt is a word we use to describe soil when it ends up in a place other than the earth, like on me or on you. But soil is the word we use to describe the dense, nutrient-rich material that helps our gardens grow. Today, we'll be doing two different activities. In our first, we talk about how soil becomes a smoothie. And in our second, we talk about the layers of soil. Let's dig in. Before we dig into the garden, we're going to take a minute and tell a story of our food. Linked below in the description, you can find our Soil to Smoothie cards. We're going to be using those today, but feel free to draw your own. With these cards, we're going to tell the story of how soil turns into a smoothie. There's many different ways to organize them, so get creative. The sky's the limit. These are two of the examples of the Soil to Smoothie journey that I came up with. On the left, I made the journey from soil to yogurt to smoothie. Down the middle, strawberry plant to strawberry to smoothie, and on the right, from apple tree to apple juice to smoothie. I rearranged them again to see if I could find a different combination. This time around, my journey from soil to apple juice to smoothie was pretty similar, but this time I wanted to make strawberry yogurt and strawberry milk. Both of those went into my smoothie. Wow. Once I got started, it was pretty clear there's many different ways to organize those cards. The one thing they have in common is that all of our food starts with soil. Before I put them all away, I'm going to draw a picture of my order in my Sprout Scouts journal so I can remember them for next week. Next week, we're going to be adding another piece in and making it even more interesting. Whew. All of this talking about a smoothie has made me really thirsty. I think I'm going to go drink a smoothie myself. Also, let me know if you've seen Maisie anywhere. I have no idea where she's gone. Today we're going to talk to one of my good friends, Liz. She's a soil scientist and a teacher, and together we're going to dig into the soil that's right below our feet.
Hi, my name's Liz Driscoll. I work at NC State with Cooperative Extension and 4-H, and I love all things plants, bugs, and soils and working with kids. All right, we are going to use one of my favorite tools as a soil scientist. This is called a soil auger, and it's a long pole with a handle and a bucket at the end. This is a bucket auger, and what this does is when you put it into the soil and you start turning, that bucket will pick up the soil underneath your feet so that you can examine it a lot more closely, and you can begin to see the changes that your soil has as you go deeper. All right, so now we have dug about 4 feet deep, and this is what we call our soil profile. And what's really cool about this is when you dig a hole this deep is you can see those changes in the soil. So we're gonna start off in this kind of darker colored soil. We're gonna call this our topsoil, and then you see this dramatic change where it becomes really orange, and that's what we call our subsoil. I want you to kind of just take a look, see what is in the soil, see what it looks like. Down here, we notice that there is a change, most notably in color, but that also will probably mean that there's a change in texture, and we'll get to that part later. But this part is less fully developed and is really kind of cool to try to touch and see what it looks like. And then way down at the very bottom, you can notice we've also had a change in a little bit of color. There's some rocks that are in here, and we can begin to understand that this is where soil starts to form. When you are thinking about different kinds of soil, there are 3 different soil particles, and they have different sizes. So the largest size soil particle is sand. And sand, because it's so big, water can move through it really easily. There's a lot of air, but it can also be a little bit dry for plants to grow in. The next soil-sized particle is silt. So silt is characterized by, it's really soft, it's a medium-sized particle. The last soil particle is clay. Clay is the smallest size soil particle, and it's so tiny that it can be hard for water to go into the soil profile and to move through the soil profile. So sometimes it can be a little tricky to try to get plants to grow in just clay soil.
The ideal soil for growing is called loam. Loam is made up of 40% sand, 40% silt, and 20% clay. Farmers will work on their soil every year, adding different amendments to make sure it gets as close to loam as possible. To amend soil means to improve it or make it better for growing using additional materials.
When you're trying to figure out what kind of soil texture you have, then you can first begin to kind of feel it. So if you feel it and you can feel some grittiness, then that is an indication that there's sand in that soil sample. If it feels really smooth, that usually means that there is some silt. Silt feels a lot like flour. And if it's really sticky, then that's an indication that there might be clay. There's another test we can do that's called a soil ribbon. And so you're going to take a sample and you're going to add a little bit of water and you're going to mix that together. And once that water is really well mixed in there, then you're going to take it and you're going to try to push it across your finger. Just like that. And you want to see how long of a ribbon you can get. The longer the ribbon, usually the greater the content of clay, because clay is so sticky. And this is sort of an in-between. So this probably, because I felt that grit, and because it didn't make a really long ribbon, I'm gonna say that this is probably a loam. So now we're gonna try to figure out what our subsoil sample is. And so first we're gonna just kind of feel it and take a little piece and try to see if it does anything. And then it's not really that sticky, but what we're gonna do is now add some water. And we're gonna do that same kind of thing. When you have a soil sample that is a little bit hard, you might have to spend some time adding a lot of water, really moistening it, mixing it in. And now that it's a little bit wet, I actually can see that it's stickier than it was before. You can actually also notice that there's some mica in here. If you see some of that shininess, do you see that? Okay, so now let's try to push this across and see how much longer that ribbon is. We can take this and we can compare it to our other one and see how that one just sort of falls apart compared to this one. So we know that this is clay.
Today, Liz used a really big auger to dig into the soil in the garden. That's not something that you might have at home. Also linked below in the description is a soil layering activity. If you'd like to know what soil is in your garden, you can take some jars and some water and shake them up and let them sit for quite a while. And after a few days, it'll start to layer out and really tell you the story of your soil at home. It's time to write things down in our Sprout Scouts journal. After I draw out my soil to smoothie journey that I did at the beginning of the episode, I'm going to draw a picture of my soil profile. And then I'm going to add some of the information I learned all about soil types. If you'd like some additional journal prompts, go ahead and pause this video and write some of these down in your Sprout Scouts journal. Thank you so much to Liz for showing us what's going on deep beneath our feet. Join us in our next episode, where we'll learn all about amendments and how to make our very own compost. See you there!
And sand has, okay, I'm gonna start over for a second, sorry. Do you want me to actually do that? Because that might be hard to see. Or